Hi guys, welcome to the latest episode of my video CnC series. This is Larfen. We're going to be starting off today with a tricking replay by Warrior called Damn She Fine. So we're going to look at this real quick. So, tricking, once again, not my forte, but I think I do have some insight on the replay. So, starts off this opener, gets into a low position so he can spring up right here. And that's a nice little cross that he has there. I think that's a Phaelon cross they're called, where he brings this leg over and kicks there. I did like that, but what I did not like is right at the landing here, he extends both arms right here, and I felt like that move didn't flow very well. Like he had his elbows contracted throughout the whole jump, and then he just immediately extends them. Like I would have preferred if he'd used a more slow movement at the end of that jump to transition. It seems a little bit too sudden to me. Then he comes in for a little ground spin here, and then goes into another jump, which has a nice just spin there. Nothing too wrong with that, I don't think. Just a nice spin there, and then it just sort of ends. Like I think in tricking replays more than anything else, you should pose. Like you really need to just make sure that everything looks balanced, because then if you just finish like that, it makes it look like you started to do something and then you couldn't do it and then you just quit and then you just are like, oh, that's good enough, it's tricking replay, no one knows when that's over. But I mean, you should land all of your tricks. And even then, I don't really like that last trick either. It's just two kicks. That second kick I really don't like, because he just isn't spinning or anything, he's just kicking out in front of him. It looks kind of like a flailing motion, and then he just falls over. So I really don't like the end of this replay, and I don't like the landing after that first jump. But otherwise, I think it's pretty slick, pretty cool looking. So the next replay here is going to be Boom Thanks Tar V2 by Ross Barker. It's a pretty simple kick into skeet throw, so let's take a look at it. So, this opener, it's basically just a snap kick. That's really all it is. He comes up, contracts the leg, and kicks forward. It's not preferable. It's not... Everyone's done an opener like this. Everyone starts off making things like this, so it's not really anything special. I mean, everyone knows how to go up and kick uke straight from the start. It's a lot more impressive when you make an opener and then you sort of fiddle around with it and then you come up with a creative approach. When you just do a rush kick like this, it really takes a lot of the style out of your replay, because it's just so... It doesn't make your replay look like you made it. It looks like another replay. So, I don't really like that first kick, that is to say. So then he comes down and gets your standard wrist break. I mean, that's the way to do it. No real other way to do it. And then, really nice skeet calf. And we'll see, does he grab on the head when he throws it? No. So that's a plus right there, because usually, if you can get the skeet calf without the grab, that's definitely a bonus. But, I mean, this replay, there's just not much to it. I mean, after the skeet, he falls into a pose, and I mean, there's really not much to say about it. I mean, it's a kick and then a skeet. I mean, you've seen that. And, I mean, that's not to say this is a bad replay. I mean, he executed it very well. I mean, he does exactly what he should, but it's just... He's not showing much creativity in this replay, is what I'm saying. So, generally, what I should say is that you should try and branch out more and try different possibilities with openers and different just follow-ups. Try and experiment more, because this replay is just not very special. Our next replay is going to be USM, Unstoppable Monster by Young Sandom, Young S&M, I don't know. But, so this is a Madman right here, and we're going to take a look at it. So, the startup, I mean, that's a really common startup. Get one of your legs close to the ground, another leg in front of you. That's really good to set up for spins. It's really good set for openers. If a tad overdone, but I think it's still good if you can do something good out of it. My problem with this opener is that I feel like he didn't use the potential of it he didn't fully utilize the potential of it. I mean, you can see that after he kicks off, after he extends here, he sort of relaxes his right leg. You can see the relaxed knee off of that, right? And so he doesn't get full power out of that jump, which, I mean, it's good for keeping yourself controlled, but it just looks sort of like a cop-out when you know that he could be doing better off of it. So, he moves into that spin, then drops into another pose for a very nice kick right through both the glutes. I really like that first kick that just blasts right through his crotch. It's really good. Good grab, good follow-up, but the problem with this next kick I have is that he's kicking with his shin, which is you shouldn't do. You should try and kick with your foot as much as possible, because that's what you would do in real life. I mean, you'd kick someone with your foot. You wouldn't kick someone with your shin. And it just doesn't look very pretty when you kick someone with your shin in this game, because it's messy, and it looks like you could be doing a more defined kick. It doesn't look like you're doing what you want to do. So he gets that shin kick, and then he brings that around for a hook kick, which is pretty nice. Gets 2 DMs out of it. And then he comes down with his other foot and kicks off the crotch block. No decap. And most of the time, and this case is no exception, I like it when you get the decap. I don't like replays, especially Mad Men, where you don't get a decap. It just feels like you missed it. Like you should almost always get a decap when you're doing a Mad Men, and I don't think he really has any excuse for not getting it in this replay. So I'd say that's a big minus to this. So in conclusion, wasted potential on the opener. Didn't really like that second kick, and he missed the decap. But otherwise, I thought this was pretty good. For our next replay here, we got Cycled by Duck Buck. And this is really interesting because it's a Sambo manipulation, which, you don't really see that often, just because it's really freaking hard to do. But I think, actually, this is pretty interesting. So we're going to take a look at this. This opener, I think, is really cool. He sort of switches up his legs, and then gives a really nice push off and scoots towards Uke. I really just like that opener in general. I think it's really dynamic. It's really interesting. What I don't like is that I feel like he gets a little bit too close up to Uke at the beginning here. I do like that it goes through the leg, but I feel like he's just a little bit too in his face. I'd like the opener to be a little bit further away. End up a little bit further away. But I think he makes really good use of his close quarters here and gets a really nice straight up lift with his leg right through the crotch, which is really good. And I guess maybe the close quarters was kind of required since he's in Sambo and has to lift Uke. And it's really hard to lift him from far away in that case. So that first lift I think is pretty nice, but it could have been better. I mean, I don't like the close-upness, and like the extended leg at the end doesn't really do much except just lift him a little bit higher, and I feel like it could have flowed a little bit better. But it's a pretty nice lift. Then he sort of scoots under and gets that, and then that push off on his arm there I don't really like either, because once again it feels a little bit delayed. Like he could have made that push a lot smoother, and he sort of extends his leg at the very end there rather than have a fluid motion. And then he comes up for a spin. Oh, and I didn't notice that grab before, which I don't know if I agree with, because one of my rules with manipulation is that you should try to not grab unless it's like a focus of the manipulation. And I can see how it was necessary here to bring his foot in for a kick, but still, I feel like if he could have tried to avoid him using that grab, that would have made the replay better. And then he also gets that ground decap, which I don't really like those because they just seem sort of lazy to me. And when you throw Yuke against the ground, his neck just sort of breaks. That doesn't look or feel as rewarding to the viewer or the replay maker, in my opinion, than when you just kick his head off. So the decap was a bit disappointing, but I do like that last kick. So overall, pretty nice. A little bit of smoothness issues I had with the manipulation, but I think that mainly was due to Sambo. So, I mean, it was pretty good, but I think he was just limited by his gravity here. So our last replay for today is Man and Potato's Tribon replay. It's a Madman, so we're going to look at this real quick. So let's see. The opener, I'm not too much of a fan of. It's a bit stiff. You can sort of see a lot of just some stiffness in the opener. And then that little leg swing back thing, I feel like it could have been executed better. I just feel like maybe if the leg went back further, it just doesn't look as good as I think it could. Also, I wasn't a fan of the chest beating with the self-damage there. Split kick is nice, though. And then the decap, I don't think is. Because it looks like his hand was just sort of there. And he's like, oh, I can get a decap with this hand. And then he just sort of extended the arm. Rather than looking sort of set up and planned. So there's that. And also, he grabs after it. And usually when you grab after making a dismemberment with the same hand, I think that makes either the grab or the dismemberment look tacked on or extra or not planned, because in this case I'd say it's the decap. The decap looks like it was a byproduct of the grab. If he had just grabbed with that, I think I would have liked it more. So then after that he comes in, grabs, and then gets that peck hit. I feel like with that grab, it would have been nicer to get a meteor hit out of that. But it's not too bad. I don't mind getting a 2DM. Then he brings in... And another thing I don't like here is that he brings in his leg, his same leg that he just did a forward kick with, for another forward kick. And I'm fine with using the same limb twice. But I think if you're using the same kind of hit with the same limb, like a forward kick here, and a forward kick there, that sort of makes that move get a little bit stale, and you don't want to just use the same move twice in a row like that, I feel like. But the hip DM is nice, and the skeet is cute, and the pose I really like too. But I feel like a lot of this replay is a little bit rough and could have been executed a lot better. And I also feel like self-damage could have been turned off and made it look a lot nicer. But so that's our episode for today. You can send in your replays at my email account in the description. You can PM me on the forums. You can find me on IRC, whatever. Just give me replays. I like to talk about them. And I'll see you next week, I guess.